been way, way too long. But finally, we're back with some SPL. It's in full swing already. We got to see Obey take on the Pappies in set 1 today. This is such a big, big split, Taco. This is the world split.
This is the world split, and not to mention that pretty much every single one of these teams is really looking to try and boost themselves as near the top as possible. Pappies, unfortunately, unable to find themselves a little bit closer to where they were initially beginning, but NRG and Valance is certainly one of those matchups where you never really know what can happen between these two teams.
But we've also got other sets today as well. You can have a little look at the schedule and you'll see how it's standing at the moment. We've got another couple of interesting matchups later on. Elevate versus Burrito. Burrito only found a split last time round against anybody in the Pro League, which was Pappies. We'll see how they do against Elevate. And then we round the day off with a rematch of DreamHack Dignitas versus Rival.
And again, all of these teams are just the teams that have been really looking to push themselves towards that top of the lining in EU. And again, I really can't get over it. NRG, they recently picked up maniaKK. He's going to be representing the solo lane for them now and facing off against Ducky, who really has a lot to prove for himself in this matchup.
Now, Valance Squadron used to be known as Enix. As we go into picks and bans, we'll see how their strategy is here up against NRG. Because in the summer split, I should say, they did split overall there. They went 1-1 at the week 5, the final week, but this one's so important for both of them. The world champs need to get back to their best in this split.
Considering that both of these teams, I would say, are fairly equally skilled, and all around, it's really going to come down to the drafting for me. That seems like to be the most important part. Not very surprised to see that Chronos ban take it away from emilitoo, not really give him that option. And Odin as well has been a pretty predictable ban.
Yeah, very dominant. We've seen him a couple of games already, at least in the Challenger circuit earlier on this morning. Kukulkan going to be banned out as well, which means there's Hell available, Artio available for banning here. What will Valance Squadron choose?
It's really up in the air, and it's actually going to be the Kamazots eliminated, probably a little bit more targeted towards those individual bans as opposed to what they feel is necessarily strongless. And Insalak, all the way expected, Artio, but I'm still very shocked that this guy was able to make it through. Yeah,
me too. I'm surprised we're going to get at least to see it in action one game. More than likely in the support role, but it can solo as well. People have been talking about how strong it can be in the solo lane. It's early wave clear with having 2 abilities at level 1. Very, very strong.
There's a few people who've been trying her out in the jungle role as of late, and so that's really just one of those picks that can go anywhere, especially with a squad
can you
like
see
NRG.
Adaptin playing it though, really?
You never really know what to expect out of these players sometimes. I mean, we've already seen Raijin twice today.
Skadi locked in for more than likely emilitoo there, Ravana and Ho-Yi from Valance Squadron. So surprised by the quick Ho-Yi pick there. It's very early for the Ho-Yi pick, especially when there's other things available potentially.
I feel as though Valance might have had an idea that the Morrigan might have been coming, of the god that has stealth available. Ho-Yi's Mark of the Crow is probably going to be the best option to try and counteract that. And it seems as though that's kind of the strategy that Valance is sticking to with the Ravana and the Terra acquisitions as well. I actually really like their mentality behind the counter engage.
Okay, we'll see how this works out, because the Terra pick as well, obviously Terra is very strong, but going to Artio, the cripple field that Artio possesses really shuts down a lot of what Terra can really bring to the team if she gets caught inside it.
It takes away a little bit more of that root aspect from Terra as far as the setup is concerned, but the heal can still be just as effective. Probably not necessarily the place you want to be standing on top if Artio is managing to capture your team inside the cripple field. What I'm really keeping an eye out for, though, is the Skadi permafrost combined with that cripple.
Oh, yeah.
Going to make it practically impossible to avoid, and it's not like players have a hard time hitting that 3 anyway.
Also point out there is a Morrigan on the side of NRG here, so they could have double Skadis, so multiple dogs as well as Artio, double Artios. Double the cripple fields.
I don't want to think about playing against that, personally.
Well, Valance Squadron, they're going to have to think about playing this, as NRG going to look in Susano now, and they've got one more pick. More than likely looking for a solo laner, I guess, is their last pick here.
Susano is actually a pick that hasn't really seen too much love as of late, and it's going to be a Serqet as that final lock-in choice, so this could potentially be Susano in the solo lane and Serqet in the jungle.
Or Artio solo, Susano solo. I mean, Serqet's got a jungle. Her wave clear is worse than Geb's, so it has to be Serqet in the jungle. But Susano, I mean, it should be solo, I guess, or unless it's Artio and Susano support.
This could go one of 2 ways for NRG. Either this is a draft that comes out, gets the initial snowball peak that they are looking for, and they're able to just combine everything all at once, or it kind of just crumbles underneath them.
But Valance Squadron there, you can see on the left-hand side, so you're right hand side of your screen, Terra and Geb locked in, so it's more than likely Terra solo here. We have seen some Geb solos now and again. There's no Geb Walker in this game, however, in game 1.
I would at least not anticipate the Geb to go into the solo lane as opposed to a Terra Just the lane in general will probably fare a little bit better with
Serqet
Terra
support,
being
what?
provided. And we're actually going to be seeing, yeah, that is, that's pretty surprising.
The last time I saw iRaffer support as an assassin, I believe it didn't go well.
It was the Thanatos, wasn't it?
Also the start of a split, and it was Thanatos. But this time it's Serqet. Now, Serqet doesn't bring a whole lot of control to the laning phase, realistically. Her wave clear is on the weaker side of things. But I guess with emilitoo in tow, this will help out. And you can also see he started with Bluestone Pendant here, too. This will help him out, I guess, a little bit in terms of clearing the wave early on, but doesn't even look like that could be the start here. iRaffer may end up starting mid.
The mentality behind it could also just be that iRaffer wants to try and spam that Serqet taunt as much as possible. Her 2 does have a slightly higher cooldown as opposed to some other more considered viable options as far as support is concerned, but all around, Serqet has a lot of mobility, which is, we saw Captain Twig get away in that last game, actually, for Obey vs. Poppies, and all around, it's just so much flexibility because of the Artio and the Morrigan.
Well, keep an eye on what iRaffer does here, because in the back of my head, I'm seeing his build, and it's looking like he may be a secondary jungler here. iRaffer was known as a jungler back in the day, the Mortality days, before he created this team, basically, with the squad he's pretty much got now. So he could go for the option of being a secondary jungler, but is that really viable, Taco?
It's not necessarily that it isn't viable as much as it is just a lot of risk for what could potentially be very little reward. Most teams tend to start off clearing their own buffs. So Valance are going to be able to at least lock down their buffs in the first cycle, which is a strong outlook already. Kind of negates that mindset that iRaffer might have been looking for, but it's the invates that I'm going to keep an eye on.
Well, NRG cleared their jungle out a little bit quicker than that of Valance Squad here. Now, NRG clearing the waves out, looking to pressure potentially into the jungle of Valance, but nothing really available for them to take. Instead, they'll take the left-hand Harpies and the Oracles on the left-hand side at the same time. Everyone on NRG doing okay as it stands and get a small lead because of it.
And maniaKK kind of just doing what Artio does best, the safe lane clear. I'm actually a little happy to see him playing this in the solo lane role and iRaffer just flexing things off with the Serqet. There's plenty of lane clear already in the dual lane because of the fact that emilitoo's playing Skadi. Skadi is one of the best lane clears in the game, levels 1 through 3, because Kaltar is basically a free second ability at level 1.
Well, Dapps was in a bit of trouble there, but Yammyn returns some nice damage onto Faeles, so bit of an even trade there. Faeles a little bit lower, but has some sustain in his kit naturally, which will come into play, and plenty of escapability too. Lawbster, meanwhile, going to be starting off with a tiny trinket here, so looking for some extra sustain in the early stages as he gets pulled in and put a lot of pressure on, and adapting just blows him up. Lawbster had no escape.
That is a nasty follow-up combination from Yammyn, just immediately tackling that stun onto Lawbster before he's able to go into that disapparate. And because of that, there aren't any buffs available right now, but Lawbster isn't going to be hitting level 5 same time as everybody else, and these buffs will be spawning fairly soon, so got to keep an eye out for, I would say, the speed buff side in particular.
We did mention the Morrigan once or twice here, played by Yammyn, but the scary thing that I'm looking at is look at just NRG's roster of the things that he could turn into here. He could turn into Serqet, Susano, Artio. Like, the squad is insane to have a Morrigan on.
My main thing here for NRG is that their entire team has some form of crazy mobility. Skadi is probably the least mobile god on their team, and even then, her movement speed provided off of the permafrost, even though after receiving a slight nerf, it's still the same once you hit the max rank of it, and a lot of players do tend to level up that third ability anyway.
Well, right-hand side, you can see Adaptin's looking for a bit of pressure onto Ducky, but playing that Terra, he can position himself quite safely under the tower. Very tricky to gank a Terra, especially because of a passive, meaning that she won't be knocked up, which means adapting Siphon Pull won't be as impactful.
My big thing here, though, is if Valance aren't able to lock down the kill initially, then who is going to be the chase down factor? You've got Faeles with his Ravana ultimate, but that seems like a little bit more of an engage than anything else. Ducky seems more of the peel, let me pay attention to my team and try and help them out, but you've got maniaKK who can be an excellent zone against this Terra and Geb.
Ducky is currently hating his life already as maniaKK just zones him off as many creeps into the tower as he can. Can't dash when you're in the cripple field, and Ducky, well aware of that, just has to wait for the cripple field to wear off, so eats a little bit of poke. Nothing too exciting to talk about in the solo lane yet, I guess, other than no teleports from these two. Obviously, it's been a while since we've not seen the Pro League without teleport in the solo lane.
Teleport's kind of fallen out of favor as far as the solo lane is concerned because a lot more players have just been paying attention to the addition of Swiftwing comprised into builds, and then there's also just teams look for a little bit more of that setup initiation factor with the shell that you can find off of buff invades early on, as well as just survivability in general in case you want to make those early rotations. And it does seem as though that's a mindset for Valance where they opted for the double shell. Meanwhile, NRG just have a sprint in the front. They're all about going
looking at Tingz, but Tingz with a well-timed ultimate to turn this one back round. Sun's rain down from Funballer, and Serqet is off the table. Yammyn in the fight, though, actually is disguised as Serqet right now. Gets the ult from Funballer, but he's in a terrible spot, and it gives Lawbster a kill. Now 3 for 2 in one engagement.
That's kind of one of the only downsides about running so many assassins early on. You just don't have as much tankiness as you would ideally want against the Geb, and so much commitment was being placed into BigManTingz. It can be incredibly difficult to lock down a Geb when you don't really have any sort of hard damage early.
Yeah, they tried to commit very early on Tingz, but Tingz's Cataclysm there really helped him out a lot, to be honest. It just bought enough time for his team to get in position, absorb it, stayed in position more than anything, which was very important to himself. And end of the day, it's still a Geb, right?
That was also rather misfortunate for Yammyn, because the second that he decided to go in, it was right on top of the Hui ultimate combined with the Cataclysm. So if anything, that was a really smart counter engage by Funballer. He recognized the situation and that there was commit coming onto BigManTingz, so he might as well look for the secure where he can.
Bad news is as well, Valance Squad, the kills all went to the carries. Sol and Hou both picking them up, so Lawbster and Funballer quite happy with that situation there. They were just chilling their own jungle and picked up a couple of kills for each of them.
Yeah, if there's any members I wouldn't want to have early kills on the side of Valance, it's definitely going to be Funballer and Lawbster. Sol and Hui, both gods that definitely thrive early on. And perfect zoning by maniaKK, just immediately body blocking Ducky as much as possible. Adapting probably could have chosen to keep going there, but sniffing out from iRaffer that BigManTingz and the rest of this team was hanging around the corner.
Well, now NRG grouping on this right-hand side of the map as it stands, looking towards the speed buff, which is due to spawn soon. But it's going to take a few moments' time, and with Valance being in mid lane here, there's enough to defend if required. NRG instead will fall back to their own half of the map here. Looking through builds, there's nothing ridiculously exciting here so far, Taco.
Everybody's still hanging with the other, though, as far as farm is concerned, and I think this is more important for NRG than Valance, because for Valance, you expect them to be able to secure their own buffs. You expect them to know how to make the proper rotations in order to acquire as much farm as necessary. But for NRG, iRaffer has been taking up a little bit more of that roaming mentality, and that can be difficult for him to just counter engage by himself. emilitoo expecting the ricochet early on.
And instead he's going to go down because of that. Faeles will just immediately follow up with the support of BigManTingz too. And obviously nice free kill there. emilitoo just biting off more than he can chew.
That's one of those circumstances where you expect to maybe get away with a cheeky steal, and instead you lose your purification beads. But I can't really blame him for choosing to invade there, knowing how many members of Valance were on the other side of the map.
Right-hand side, you can see maniaKK continuing to pressure Ducky under that tier 1, but Adapting's just going to clear the wave out, head back to his own jungle. Everybody doing okay in terms of levels as it stands. Slightly behind at the moment are Valance Squadron, I would say, but they're starting to be able to catch up because of these free kills that keep coming their way.
Yeah, that's really just massive for Funballer. I mean, he's already 2-0-2. That's pretty crucial for your ADC to have already been involved in every single kill, and especially on a hunter like Funballer who absolutely loves aggression. Skadi versus Hui is one of those matchups where you can actually afford to play a little bit more aggro. Typically, most hunters kind of just have to forfeit the lane pressure early on to Skadi, but with that ricochet, you never really get pressured out in that lane.
And talking about those two hunters a little bit more, you can see Funballer heading towards what could be the Devourer's Gauntlets, which we've been expecting now. However, emilitoo, we was thinking at one moment in time maybe Gladiator Shield or Void Shield instead. Looks like he's going for the Transcendent True here.
Transcendence wouldn't surprise me, just because Skadi does thrive a little bit more off of that mana, plus the initial power spike is just insane. And oh man, we've seen this one a million times before. maniaKK really just seeing how far he can push Ducky underneath his tower.
But both being Guardians, it's very tricky for them to either really die. Obviously, Terra really has a get out of jail free card because he can just pop that ultimate worst case scenario and run away as fast as his little legs can carry him.
But you don't want to continuously keep losing that much farm, because with NRG being very well aware that that side of the map is completely pressured out, as long as maniaKK doesn't go too crazy with overextending and find himself getting ganked and killed, NRG should have the flexibility to just place as much pressure as they want into the mid and dual lane.
And look at the gold on the left-hand side. You can see the net worth of everybody right now. Slightly in the lead is Geb. As it stands, BigManTingz doing a very good job of farming here, using that Watcher's Gift. And you can see the difference between him and iRaffer, for example, the other support who didn't go for the Watcher's Gift start.
The benefits of Travelers as well for BigManTingz. It's just so much easier to keep procking that 30 gold. Every now and again, that's all you need. Just one shockwave. Really hard to avoid. And
with that, you can actually see iRaffer's build here, still going for a sort of hybrid option, I guess, with what he's looking for. More damage orientated than real tanky, but going for the shield just to start things off. We'll see where he ends up going with this.
Shifters could be a decent power spike, which you're going to be looking for on Serqet if you're looking to try and invade. And that was a solid invade by NRG. I believe iRaffer actually managed to steal that one away. And
iRaffer can just walk away now, quite happy. Surprisingly, they didn't want to follow up any further than that, but it worked out okay. 10 minutes in, though, and now that means that the Portal Demon has spawned. iRaffer very greedy for the speed, but look at how much damage you just ate from BigManTingz.
I mean, that face up front, close and personal shockwave is going to pack a little bit of a punch onto the all too squishy Serqet, but I expect that to change a little bit more once his build starts coming online. And of course, with the Boombas, it doesn't make too much of a difference. They're able to split the way that the mass works so that iRaffer is able to benefit off of the heal in comparison to adapting.
Yeah, Valance Squad wanted to play very far back there, so end up losing their speed and the blue buff on the right-hand side. Tower damage on the right, you can see it's getting lower for Duckies there, but meanwhile, iRaffer's just taking people on a mystery tour through the jungle, meanwhile, because he ran between tier 1 and tier 2 in the mid lane and swings all the way left. Happy is Larry because he's Serqet with all that mobility.
It seemed as though Valance wanted to go in for a second there against iRaffer as he was rotating through the jungle. Ducky popping that Terra ultimate. I'm sure NRG are more than aware that that is going on, and Ducky's got to be careful here because maniaKK actually might be taking his T1 tower pretty soon. Yeah, relatively soon too. It's only down to half as it stands. Obviously, Guardians aren't the biggest swingers for tower damage tackle, but consistently getting minions in there, it does eventually add up. It's going to keep climbing as well. I'm really just anticipating who makes the first move onto the Gold Fury. I would almost expect it to be Valance Squadron simply because their composition would fare a little bit better as far as tanking the Gold Fury is concerned. But you just never really know what to expect. I mean, NRG, you can tell they want to play as aggressively as possible. Considering their draft, iRaffer has been making very frequent invades into Valance's jungle. It's just whether or not this is going to pay off for them in the long run.
Just look at the level differences here. iRaffer's a little bit behind BigManTingz. In the jungle, however, Faeles only level 10 to the level 12 of adapting. And we all know level 12 is so important for those secondary relics.
Secondary relics are going to be coming up pretty big for both of these teams. I wouldn't be too concerned right now, though, for Faeles. His secondary relic isn't necessarily as important because he is the Ravana. I would expect him to almost look for that team fighting relic anyway, which I guess could be considered a necessity. But as Ravana, he should have a decent bit of survivability already because of his CC immunity from his ability from the overhead kick as well as just his ultimate.
Well, these invades have started to pay off a little bit for NRG so far. You can see the XP per minute on the left-hand side. 3 members of NRG in the top 4, the Hunter, the solo laner, and the jungler. So this is good stuff for NRG as it stands, even though they dropped a couple of kills in a row where they went a little bit too aggressive.
And another interesting aspect that I'm looking at for maniaKK is that he opted for the Breastplate of Valor despite being against a Terra, showing that he's not concerned at all about Ducky's damage output. He's really looking to just protect himself against Faeles and Funballer as much as possible. Mostly Faeles because he's the Ravana. And again, iRaffer looking for the initiation, able to just escape the Cataclysm for BigManTingz and everybody else except for Faeles' ultimate.
Oh, but Faeles is going to get kissed and still be able to get away. It's iRaffer, run! The dash from Ducky's not good. The juke away is even better. iRaffer's going to get out and they've invested so much to kill him. maniaKK on the front line, though, hang around a little bit too long. Now he's in trouble, but the sustain coming through. In comes adapting, knocks up Ducky. Ducky down with a dash onto one. maniaKK's out of the fight. Adapting to the right will get away too. And emilitoo's now in the mix looking to clean up.
But it's the Fire Giant who's really making the biggest impact in this fight as Funballer is getting absolutely chunked away. Same can be said for Lawbster. Beautiful rotation by emilitoo, making sure to clean it up, but even better, survivability from NRG. iRaffer just running away the entire time with a wild goose chase following closely behind.
And Lawbster didn't spot iRaffer there. iRaffer's going to meet Funballer, and Funballer is very risky far forward at that low health pool, but knowing iRaffer used all his abilities onto Lawbster, he could hang around. NRG come out on top with a single kill onto Ducky and the Portal Demon.
For me, it's just that Fire Giant pit. First it was Ducky pulling the initial aggro from it because of those big AoEs. Big AoEs inside of the Fire Giant pit can be so deadly early on, especially when the knockup starts coming into play. I'm a little bit surprised that Valance didn't actually lose Funballer there. He just managed to get out of danger in time, but a little bit longer, and I am almost certain that could have been even messier.
Well, Rapha's doing what he does best, realistically, even though he's played an assassin. He's very good at almost being out of position, but in position because his team's there to collapse straight after. Avoided a lot of the ultimates, absorbed a lot of them because they used them looking to kill him.
I don't think that was 100% iRaffer trying to bait Valance, though, across the map. I think that was more, he looked for the steal with that blink engage. It didn't pan out for him, but BigManTingz Cataclysm being slightly off the mark just buys him enough time to keep running around and doing what Serqet does best, and that's survive.
Well, 7 kills in at 15 minutes, and it's only a marginal gold lead, realistically, between the two. 1,000 up for NRG right now. Most of that down to the first blood at the start, I'd say, and as well, that portal demon.
And with Gladiators being the pickup for iRaffer, just trying to proc that ability his abilities as much as possible, look for that tiny heal, and NRG, they want to play. They want to play with Skull Fury.
Well, Lawbster's only on low mana here at the back, so it's very tricky for him to get involved. Rapha's going to jump onto Funballer and pop the ultimate. Funballer has to disengage over the wall. The ult from Ducky comes out from Terra just to try and support the team, but the Skull Fury leashed once more.
That was Yammyn popping the Terra ultimate from the Morrigan, trying to provide the upper hand to NRG. BigManTingz poking his head around there. maniaKK with very solid zoning, but Funballer, he's looking to try and make that engage onto iRaffer. Might have gone a little bit too deep there.
Yep, and now Funballer surrounded by the whole squad of energy. He'll fall down for free. Lawbster's going to get zoned away by maniaKK on the front line, dealing with 4 members on his own. That's what he's known for in the solo lane, and his transition to energy is looking solid so far.
And this is kind of the thing about Artio and why I'm surprised that this pick managed to make it through. You have so many players, and more particularly pro players, complaining about how much CC she can provide in these team fighting environments, and yet you're letting her through.
And it's not just CC, it's also survivability, because she's so very tricky to bring down. Bear form obviously gets bonus protections from that with some of the abilities, and that just means you can run away at a nice fast speed if required.
Yeah, really just unfortunate for Funballer that he pulled the trigger a little bit too soon there, expecting to have that full commit possibility onto iRaffer, who just dashes away, essentially. That's all he has to do, is just 1 or 3 away every single time, and he can keep baiting Funballer out of position like that. Once your jump is expended on Hu Yi, you're kind of just free meat.
What a day to be alive, right? What did we see game 1? I mean, set 1 we saw Raijin in mid, then we saw Hell support again, and now we get to see Serqet support.
Oh, we haven't seen the end of Hide of the Urgent mids either. I'm convinced of that one. But talk about damage. There's a lot coming out of it right now onto Yammyn. He doesn't have a chance to even make it out of there. Egg is expended and everything. emilitoo, though, trying to make the return kill, but the shield is going to be so strong here from BigManTingz.
Not good enough to keep him alive. However, Rapid does get knocked up by Tingz. That's a big kill. Suns on emilitoo will slow him down, but they don't want to commit. No one adapting's waiting. The call to disengage has been called. Funballer has to keep running from Caldeir and adapting too. Forced to use the Aegis, but in comes maniaKK.
And maniaKK just looking to try and lock anybody down. BigManTingz, he might be the target here, getting pulled back in by adapting. Still nowhere to go. Ducky has finally managed to make his way over, so maniaKK is going to just back off with the rest of NRG, but still pretty even trades all around for both teams.
Realistically, though, who does that really work in favor for? I mean, we saw 2 members of NRG did die there.
It's probably still in favor of NRG, however, because there isn't a Portal Demon or Gold Fury available, but maniaKK still trying to make even more happen for NRG, and it's going to be BigManTingz trying to get out, but he can't get away from maniaKK.
Yeah, the Shelly's just a little bit too late to keep BigManTingz up, and now with the slip and slide down from emilitoo, the pressure is on. Ducky dashes once, he can't get away, he can still lie on the left-hand side, but Funballer falls. Yammyn jumps in, disguised as iRaffer by the looks of that, and that's going to pick up another kill for them. Meanwhile, Lawbster's forced to Aegis defensively, and the tier 1 in mid is under pressure.
And again, it's just Serqet's everywhere, and that's one of the beauties of it. I mean, you expect it to be Yammyn. He's just chilling in the Morrigan, ready to go back in and clean everything up, and that's the danger of NRG's draft, is just how much follow-up potential they have off of each other. Once they get one pick, that is all that it takes. They might not be the tankiest team, but you don't necessarily need to be super tanky if you're able to kill everybody anyway.
And look at player damage. Look at where maniaKK is right now as the Portal Demon falls. 12,000 damage. Funballer and Lawbster are really putting in work for Valance Squadron, but they can't even catch the solo net. Obviously, he is up against a Terra, so he's going to dominate and get a lot of free damage off, but it's continuing into the team fights.
And the members of NRG that you would expect to be targeted out have actually opted for more defensive routes. I mean, emilitoo's got the Hide of the Urchin on Skadi. There's a Hide of the Urchin on maniaKK. There's also the Gladiator shields and magical defense on iRaffer. It's just little bits here and there are ultimately adding up to the bigger picture. 2
Hide of the Urchins on the side of NRG Esports now. 1 for emilitoo. We saw it on the mid lane earlier on. Pretty Prime picking that up. But now, emilitoo also picking this up. This item is good when it's stacked, Taco, but it's very expensive.
But Skadi is one of those gods where you can kind of get away with building more of this bruiser-oriented style, just having the defensive option, since Kaldar is going to deal a ton of damage regardless. He just does a lot of damage. Permafrost provides so much CC in team fights. It can be incredibly difficult to deal with. And you've got Artio providing you heal.
Well, tier 1 tower down in mid and the right-hand side means that NRG starts to focus their attention to the left-hand side. In the jungle, maniaKK's trying to keep them all busy, eating a lot of free damage from Funballer there, but not enough to slow him down. Obviously, maniaKK has a breastplate of Valor and the Hide of the Urchin anyway, so he's nice and tanky already. Nice bit of health pull there as emilitoo looking to keep chipping away at this tower.
All NRG want to do is just keep adding onto it, and the T1 tower won't be standing for much longer. I'm not even sure it's that safe of a defensive route for Valance right now either.
Yeah, we're going to see what Valance choose to do here. No blink available this time around for BigManTingz to engage, but there is one for Faeles, and their engages kind of run at you is really the issue without having Geb with that blink, but there's a blink from iRaffer. He goes in, trying to push the boys of Valance Squadron back once more, and it's Tingz isolated with the whole of energy trying to beat him down. iRaffer bit off too much though and fails to pick up one as emilitoo trades out with Tingz.
And Ducky's trying to help out Faeles on the backside, picking up emilitoo, but the permafrost slip and slide into your own death. Ducky, caught up in 3 members of NRG, is going to fall. So it's already 2 members down for Valance. They're not able to find anything else.
Faeles got swum with a very nice blink, and then Lawbster cleans up Yammyn. Mistakes were made as Valance still alive, but adapting does take out Faeles, has to box out against Funballer. Meanwhile, maniaKK's just having a whale of a time. I'm a bear, I'm a druid, I'm a bear, I don't care. You're in trouble, Lawbster's gonna die.
And there's, again, just absolutely nowhere to go for Lawbster. maniaKK still trying to find it. Just enough sustain of a Lawbster to keep buying his own life.
Close.
That Bancroft was actually almost coming up pretty clutch for him.
But it wasn't clutch enough to keep him alive, and so NRG do win the engagement there overall. Wasn't the greatest of engagement of all time from either, because they both traded out quite evenly. I will say I think Faeles really managed to even that out a little bit more.
And all around, I think that definitely goes in favor of NRG. Valance, they tried to have the counter engage off of Faeles, but it just wasn't enough damage lockdown. Nobody else could really afford to follow up because you had maniaKK on that backside doing such a phenomenal job at zoning everybody out.
5,000 gold lead for NRG now. 1 gold Fury in the bag. Couple of Portal Demons so far. The experience up to just under 9,000 here. As once again, iRaffer just being an annoyance more than anything else.
And that's kind of what you anticipate off of this draft. I mean, we've said it time and time again, what could you possibly want out of a Serqet support? But he's done his job and his duty as far as ensuring that everybody can safely engage, but also back off when they need to.
3 gold Fury going the way of NRG there as well, just going to continue to extend their lead. Is now emilitoo already level 19.
And again, it's just going to be emilitoo trying to farm as much as possible. iRaffer actually getting a little finicky there, trying to make something happen to Funballer. I think also what has been helping for iRaffer is that he's been the initial engaging factor, and Valance has been burning out so much the second that he goes in and ults anybody. I mean, there are 4 members on Valance in that T1 engagement that immediately backed off. A shell was popped. They all tried to immediately turn and drop ultimates onto a Serqet who blinked in. So you know that he has 2 escapes available.
Player damage on the left-hand side. Lawbster still doing work, second on the list, but adapting quietly and consistently, heading towards the top as per usual on this Susano, where he's gone for the Heart Seeker, which is one of the items that did get puffed over the mid-season.
And this is another one of those items where a lot of players have seemed to kind of been bringing it back into the meta. It's kind of anticipated. I mean, it's got 10% movement speed, which is very ideal for Susano. His passive was hit a little bit, so knowing that you need a little bit more movement
Yeah.
speed additionally, especially when you want to have that all-in commit lineup, it's still just a strong acquisition.
Paul Demon started up once again by NRG Esports, and now Valance Squad looking to try and defend. With this though, Tingz trying to get in range, but a stun from maniaKK keeps him busy. iRaffer goes towards Lawbster. Nice shield from Tingz, will keep Lawbster topped up for the time being. Shelly's also down from Valance Squad as they look to retreat. maniaKK not making it easy on the retreat though, with that cripple field as Lawbster all the way back to tower, and a big ultimate from him will sustain him back up. Susano did work to Lawbster though, and that should take him out of the fight for now. Meanwhile, maniaKK now the last one to fall back to the back line as the Portal Demon does stay standing. NRG committed, but they didn't find anything.
And I do have to say, I'm a little bit surprised that maniaKK actually didn't choose to follow up any further. I guess he didn't really need to, but Valance are now going to have the option to try and pull this Portal Demon. But it doesn't seem as though they want to maintain any further. iRaffer actually getting a ton of damage put out onto him by Funballer, who was looking for the commit, but now BigManTingz is caught out of position, trying to get away.
And then now he's going to try and run away for the safety, but pulled it again by Adapton, and he'll take his life. Falls back towards the mid lane as emilitoo takes out Faeles, and the stun, not the stun, the root, I should say, onto Funballer. Didn't connect, but the stun will from maniaKK in the skies for him. The blinking from iRaffer will clean him up in aisle middle. Meanwhile, Lawbster still trying to stay alive and trying to turn on emilitoo. The Aegis keeps him alive, and the laugh spam is good.
There's just, this lineup is absolutely nutty to me. It's just the fact of NRG are completely abusing this cripple field from the Artio, just really making sure that nobody from Valance can get away. Funballer even expended his beads there, trying to escape, and it still wasn't enough.
This is good from NRG though, Taco, because what they're doing is they're showing that they're good at juggling aggro. They're taking it in turns to be the front line. Obviously, maniaKK's going to be the permanent one, but everyone else is going in, taking a lot of damage, and then dipping. The next guy goes in, takes a lot of damage, and dips. And then by that point, Valance have been weakened so much that they're on the run, and NRG are looking to continue fighting.
Another aspect, too, is that Yammyn's actually been transforming into Terra in a lot of these engagements, which has been able to provide that secondary line of tank and peel that NRG could have been lacking having the Serqet initially, but doesn't seem to be making too much of an impact. And I think that that's really the big thing here, is just Yammyn's ability to recognize what the team needs most in which engagement.
And the funny thing is, generally Morrigan, you wouldn't expect that from, but she is a utility mage to an extent. She has a stun, she has a damage amplification tool in his kit to help out with the damage, and then she can technically turn into whatever the team needs. At the moment, you can see the rest of the carries on this team are doing enough work that she doesn't need to. And yes, I'm technically classing Artio as a carry here with how this is looking.
And again, Adapting's kind of just had, we haven't really paid too much attention to Adapting, but he has come up pretty huge with the Susano ultimate as the follow-up engage. Just when Valance think that they're completely out of whatever might be coming next from NRG, you just got Adapting running havoc on that back line.
And once again, Raph is just not scared of being on the front line as far forward as he wants to be. Knowing that playing Serqet, you have the mobility to get away. This is keeping Valance Squad busy enough for NRG to reposition themselves and look for further free objectives like this Tier 2 tower.
And Thorns is also making it incredibly difficult for Funballer or Lawbster to try and output as much damage as possible to take down that Serqet whenever iRaffer does decide to blink in. You don't want to necessarily dump your entire kit on somebody who's got Thorns procced.
That's true. I mean, on top of that, you don't want to dump it onto a support either, but they've been trying to a couple of times, and iRaffer keeps getting away with murder as it stands. NRG only have one more Tier 2 tower to take down here with this Fire Giant. They're playing this very systematically, Taco, which isn't really a surprise on the opening day of the fall split.
This is, if you want to talk about spicy, this is pretty much the bang of the bucket when it comes to the spice. NRG just time and time again really wanted to come out and make a difference and break the meta.
Plenty of rainbows going on here in this set, that's for sure for the time being. Full minion wave now coming in, Fire Giant on all members as stated, and it's up to Valance to defend, and there's a blink at the same time from two members. Both the supports go in. Cataclysm was good from BigManTingz, but it's on the front line that's isolated because of the backline rampage from iRaffer, keeping them busy. iRaffer goes in again to force Funballer all the way back to the Phoenix. The Tier 2 tower is completely ignored by NRG as they look to collapse for an additional kill on top of BigManTingz. Won't be the case, but they will result in them getting this Tier 2 tower.
I can't blame Valance, but the way that iRaffer has been able to misdirect their attention has just been absolutely insane. Every single time he looks to go in on just one member by himself, everybody turns and looks at iRaffer instead of paying attention to what's in front of them.
It's a Serqet, though. Your natural reaction to a Serqet in your face is, kill her quick before she kills me.
But the damage output, iRaffer isn't going to have that all-in damage output.
True damage, though?
He's just playing devil's advocate here. That's all that he is looking for, is just distractions, and it's working.
And it has worked out, and we'll see if it continues into game 2 if we get that far, because this one only 30 minutes in as it stands, and expecting the games would go potentially a little bit longer this split with the changes to the meta and such. Obviously, set 1 was a different story with Obey and Pappy's under 25 for both.
And that's just one of the many things that I think this fall split has in store for us. And I'm really excited already to see how the rest of it unfolds, especially the rest of these matches for today. I think that if we're going to be able to see Serqet support Ryzen, and somehow Artio gets through despite her being, you know, one of the most complained about gods so far.
I don't think anyone's going to surprise me anymore today, because it could just be anything. We'll find out as time goes on, though, because it's the pros that technically dictate the direction the meta ends up going, because everyone follows the pro scene.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Skadi was, you know, ruined after her nerf.
Yes.
So...
Well, in the jungle, pressure onto Funballer. Couldn't leap away the first time he was caught out, but a shield from Tingz will slow iRaffer down from continuing the aggression. But as you stated, iRaffer's not really doing that much damage. Look what he did to Funballer there.
He's just trying to drop his ultimate. He does have a little bit of CDR, not necessarily as much as what a Serqet would probably typically look for,
all the damage.
It still works out in the long run. He's been able to force purification beads, and that's been the most important part to me, at least, is when you're able to force those carries out of using their actives, and you're not even the one really looking to kill them. That's a pretty big W. Fire
Giant about to spawn. You can see in the top left-hand corner, less than 10 seconds until that respawns. And NRG already in a position to take this up. They've got wall coverage down, and look who's in the front line. It's the Artio and the Serqet just zoning away, making sure no one from Valance can even defend this Fire Giant take.
Don't think anybody from Valance even wants to try and defend against the Fire Giant, and even without having, you know, the most ideal builds, NRG just absolutely destroying that Fire Giant. So
19-9 now. It's just the Phoenixes remaining. Have Valance Squad got a good defensive line here, though, for defense at a Phoenix with minion clear and such?
It'd be better if they weren't as far behind as they are. A lot of the members on their team are still struggling even to venture into that level 20 mark, as well as just the itemization choices for them is incredibly rough to really break past and all in drop anybody from NRG.
Well, I'm looking at Lawbster here. He's top of the damage charts. He's had a pretty solid game, 4-3-2, considering he died for that first blood early on. He's putting work in for his team, has that run or two who he completed. A little bit lacking in the pen option is he's not managed to finish off the shard just yet, compared to Yammyn's build, which is pretty much full right now. Just needs to change out that starter item for whatever he so chooses.
But Lawbster's the primary damage option, and instead it's going to be iRaffer yet again, blinking onto the backline, causing so much havoc. emilitoo dropping the Skadi ultimate onto BigManTingz. BigManTingz trying to get away, but just getting run down by maniaKK.
Yeah, maniaK's taking a lot of free damage from this, though. It's iRaffer attacking up the Phoenix, however. So maniaKK will be fine as the Phoenix on the right-hand side falls. I like BigManTingz' idea there. He saw iRaffer blink and instantly blinked himself, but there was no engage actually coming out from NRG, so he wasted that and ends up falling almost down there. He was the one forced out, which gave away that free Phoenix on the right-hand side, in essence.
Ultimately, if NRG had tried to continue the fight there, iRaffer might have taken a spill. Same could be said for maniaKK, but they recognize Phoenix is free. We might as well back off. We've got the regen, we've got the sustain, and we still have a couple of ultimates on our side. Well, I should say a couple, but it's really only just one from adapting.
Well, this is the fall split, the start of the fall split for these two teams, and wins are so important, especially when Worlds is on the cards for both of these potential teams here. Take into account that only 6 teams will make it into next year too, so even at the bottom it's going to get more interesting as these weeks unfold.
Racking up the points early on is the best way to feel comfortable as the split continues to develop, and right now NRG are looking pretty damn good to lock away their first win of the split.
Tingz off on the left-hand side right now as maniaKK takes a couple of free tower shots, but the minions coming in will take aggro for the time being. But the minions now out. maniaKK can't really do too much in the front lines here. NRG don't want to engage under a Phoenix without minions. It takes a long time to bring down, and they will absorb a lot of free damage from that Phoenix.
All Adapting wants to do is continue lurking working around this backside, and all that poke onto Ducky immediately. No hesitation. iRaffer's going in, recognizing that the members of Valance are already low. maniaKK just taking up this Phoenix. Skadi and Yammyn doing everything that they can, but there is no way for Valance to hold off that mid-Phoenix much longer.
Timing was beautiful there from NRG as well. Notice how they engage just before the minions arrive, so the Valance fall back, the minions come in, and it leaves the backline damage dealers to poke down the Phoenix because the minions remove the backdoor protections, and everybody's happy as Larry.
That damage output from adapting, though, onto Ducky and forcing Ducky out, I think, was really the main reason why the rest of Valance didn't feel comfortable trying to stick around much longer. You can just recognize immediately this Phoenix is not going to be able to hold off against a Skadi and the ultimate.
It's almost the beginning of the end for Valance in this first game. Now they have to try and make a final defense here on this left-hand Phoenix, or just hold on till these Phoenixes respawn. But it's a long time, Taco, when you've got this sort of comp from NRG running at you consistently.
And knowing that you're going to have fire creeps pouring in from 2 lanes, potentially even 3, that's probably the worst part, because NRG have one of those compositions where they can continuously find a different member to go in.
It's all about mobility with this squad from NRG, it feels like to me too, because even the slower members of the team are so tanky. emilitoo with a fully stacked Hide of the Urchin. You can't really go onto a Skadi with Hide of the Urchin and expect to kill him in one all-round all-in.
He has a Mantle of Discord as well, just in case.
Just in case, you know.
You never really know.
Worst case scenario, Skadi gets low and you nearly kill her. Left-hand side, though, with minions pouring on the right from the fire minions. They're just waiting for minions to turn up once more to remove the backdoor protections again and keep an eye out for the engage. BigManTingz does have his ultimate open. His blink should be available too. It's a big, important play for the Geb here to try and set up some of these damage dealers on the back line.
That blink, though, is going to be interrupted by iRaffer, but it doesn't seem to matter. He's looking to go in onto Ducky, already popping his Terra ultimate, trying to provide safety to his team. maniaKK might actually get locked away underneath here. He's still trying to sustain. Faeles will be able to pick him up.
But the Phoenix still stands too. Yammyn looking to clean it up, but can't do it even as Ho-Yi. The fallback from NRG has to happen now. maniaKK just bit off a little bit more than he could chew. NRG were in a position to continue the pressure. The Fire Giant buff wore off, and the fight didn't work out.
I believe that was actually 2 Hui ultimates on top of each other, just colliding against the other, seeing who could tank up the most damage. Valance will probably win that trade-off.
Oh, Yammyn in on the opposite. Lawbster goes boom. iRaffer should be able to clean this up. No, he can't find the hit. There's not enough damage from the Thorns to kill him as Disapparate saves the day. Right-hand Phoenix about to respawn. So Valance hold for now.
Gotta feel for Lawbster here. He hasn't been the sacrificial lamb for his team, so to say, but he's had an incredibly difficult time. He's putting out so much damage. It's just that it's never enough burst damage to immediately take somebody out of the fight from NRG.
Well, I'm just surprised that they let the Artio through more than anything. They knew Artio was strong. There's been a lot of people talking about how strong she is right now, even receiving some more nerfs potentially in the future because of the state of her right now. We'll see how if she gets played game 2. I predict him permanently banned from now on.
I don't see Artio making it through. I don't want to say making it through again today because somehow she made it through in this game already. True. But I wouldn't anticipate her making it through into the second game of this set.
Fire Giant underway for the 3rd time this game from NRG Esports. This will go their way for free. Nobody here to try and defend from Valance Squad. More focus on keeping their Phoenixes topped up and get them back alive again. But NRG, with that Fire Giant, will start to push on the weakened one on the right-hand side.
You usually say that the best defense... usually say that the best offense is a good defense, but this time around, it is completely... It is really just so much of an impact being made from this all-in chase down factor, and again, NRG really trying to make the final push here.
Just keep an eye on iRaffer as he goes in once again, going to get the ultimate off. Force Funballer out of the fight one more time, and emilitoo is chunking away at Ducky on the front line, who's forced back. Adapting does get CC'd nicely by BigManTingz there, but Adapting is going to commit with the help of Yammyn, who's playing Soul right now, or the Morrigan, whichever way you want to put it. Phoenix on the right falls down, maniaKK still charging in, going to force the Aegis out too, and now the middle one's going to drop soon after.
And Yammyn with these fire creeps, trying to maybe lock down this last and final Phoenix. That's only if iRaffer can't find a pick first, but it does appear as though NRG want to play it safe and have fire creeps from all 3 lanes.
Meanwhile in mid, maniaKK just continuing to pressure Faeles, and now Lawbster 2 keeping 2 busy, as well as the Titan. The rest of the team focus on this Phoenix on the left-hand side. Scratch that as Adapting goes and takes out Funballer. This is looking like game 1, Taco. All 3 Phoenixes are down. The Titan is low. The Titan's going to fall down, and the defending world champions here are going to take game 1.
And again, that really just comes down to NRG's draft really getting to shine. And that, so to say, it also comes because Valance, when they were trying to combine their ultimates, there was just nobody that they could possibly completely lock down. Every single member on the side of NRG had some form of an escape that was just able to avoid the Hui Suns, avoid the Soul Burst. And it's just absolutely incredible whenever you get to see those kind of more fun drafts come to play.
And emilitoo as well, he had a fantastic performance. Obviously, he picked up the Heart of the Urchin, but it worked out well for him in the end. I'm managing to stay alive consistently. Obviously, it was those front line doing the work, but you've got to have some extra damage to follow that up and take these towers down.
When your team is playing that aggressive, Heart of the Urchin can be a pretty safe pickup. emilitoo trusted that they would be able to find the assist, if anything, and the lockdown kills. So knowing that, I can't blame him for opting for that Heart of the Urchin. You've got the damage from Kaldar, and it really just showed.
It just never felt there was any real pressure onto emilitoo. I guess some of that is down to the Heart of the Urchin, like, well, we're not going to kill him anyway. But you've got to get through so many frontliners that dive in your back. You don't get a chance to look at their backline.
They didn't have a single opportunity. iRaffer was a complete nuisance every single time, either engaging onto Funballer or Lawbster with his Blink ultimate. And both times, if they weren't dropping their purification beads, a Geb shield was coming their way. And so with that being on cooldown, it opened up the rest of their team to have to try and get away from NRG, and that's when adapting would really just come in and do cleanup crew.
Well, let's go.